Good morning, sir. Let me start by saying, can you all hear me? Yeah. It's a great privilege to be speaking with you here. It's a big honor for us. Sir, we will be discussing something which has been intriguing everyone in the scientific community for quite some time, ever since it was announced. You know, there's so many worries about it. What is this big monster, this big bogey that has happened, the NRF? Right now, there still isn't really much known, like the details of how it will pan out. So there are people who think that this would be a game changer. Many others feel, that there need to be some checks and balances. This monster shouldn't get out of control. So, sir, can you just give us a brief introduction on what the NRF would be about?
First of all, thank you very much for having me here. I must thank SJAI for inviting me. I think you are right that, it's a new animal in the room, and therefore you always have a doubt what it is. And after really very long time, I've been in the research for the last 40 years or so, that a government has brought in something very transformative. NRF will bring a major transformational change in the way research is funded. Give you example that traditionally India has been funding basic science research, and there were agencies like Department of Science and Technology, Department of Biotechnology. SERB was created in 2008. But prior to SERB, we had Science and Engineering Research Council in DST, which was supporting. But the time has come that research support may need some major directional change. And the good example is that now the research in the universities and IITs and all need to become more innovation driven rather than just doing discovery driven. And so the idea of NRF is that we not only promote the basic science research, which is supposed to be there to build the foundation, we must also have the profound research, which is the research going to the market through an innovation process and through a process of building the technology development to prototype to market, all that entire. So I think it's a big transformational or directional change that NRF is trying to make.
So there is a worry, that what they call the open sky research or basic research or whatever you call it, that might suffer when research is, result oriented, which obviously is a need of the hour. But how would NRF balance these two? You also need open research, basic research to find new science as such. So how will NRF strike the balance between these two?
So, let me give you some idea. First of all, let me clearly mention here that with NRF coming, there will be no change in the basic science research support that is given through SERB. It will continue as it is. But more, will be a big consolation for many people. So there will be no change. In fact, NRF has 3 components as approved by the cabinet and the parliament. 3 components NRF will have. The first component is the SERB component. The way SERB has been funding basic research will continue as it is with the same funding quantum and without any change. The second part of the NRF is the profound funding, as I mentioned just now. There is some over and above the SERB fund, there will be some funding for the high-end research, which is, bringing impactful research. The third component is the innovation funding, so which will bring more public-private partnership and industry connect. So I think these three connect, but more importantly, when you say basic research, India has something like 600 R&D institutions supported by government. And most of these government R&D institutions, they work on basic science research. So I think we have very strong foundation in India on basic science, and that should continue. There will no, the only additional part will be the NRF will in fact bring that doing some kind of translational research and profound research company.
So when we talk about translational research, we are talking in the NRF about getting philanthropists and corporate houses also to be funding research, which obviously is a model which is followed by Western countries also. They have the money, and why not put it into research? But then again, there is a fear that the research, instead of becoming translational, should not become transactional in a sense. How do we ensure that the corporates do not kind of guide the direction of the research? Can you elaborate on this, sir?
So, let me give you this idea. It's like our team, when we were formulating NRF, we had done a very detailed study of something like 40 countries in the world. All categories of countries, were doing good. They are front runners in the research, and also those who are not front runners of the research. So we did an extensive study, and we found that most of the front runners in the research area, they have a clear pattern, and that pattern is that 70 to 85% of their research funding is done through a private sector intervention. So the funding, the contribution to GERD, that is gross expenditure on R&D, is dominated by private sector contribution. Government provides only 20% or 25%. In India, this is the other way around. 60% of the research is funded by government, 39 to 40% is by private. But more importantly, the synergy between government and private is still not up to the level that is required. So the idea of bringing more private fund to the NRF is that we encourage private sector to come and invest in R&D, but this is not going to happen on a short term. The NRF has been created with an idea of making long-term, bringing long-term vision for the country. And that is the whole idea of introducing innovation fund and the funding from the private sector through philanthropy and other means. I think
would there be some checks and balances to see the direction of the research?
So if you are bringing private sector to come and invest, that doesn't mean that it will be driven or be dominated by private sector. Research will still have the blending of government and private sector. So I don't think it is going to be unchecked or not going to be in a direction where,
It won't be the corporatization of research as such.
It is not a corporatization of the research, but it is only creating a better synergy with the private sector.
So since you have been one of the architects of the NRF, could you tell us which are the areas in this innovative of translation research that are of priority to India right now? Being a developing country, we have so many priorities, but how would you rate the top at least three?
Look, again, there are emerging sectors. They were not there part of India's, I would say, vision for research and development. So you can see that cyber physical system is dominating. Now you have all, just now we had a talk on AI. So India is now emerging as an important player in the area of AI and ML, and also the other area, AR, VR, the robotics and and robotics, cyber security, and many such areas. But along with that, we also have areas like quantum. In fact, as you know, India has launched a mission recently. But this is, you see that development of quantum technology is taking place across the world, but India wants to be an important place. Now, the idea of NRF is that two things that you need to understand. One is the mission that we have on AI or the quantum and other areas. But then also the idea of NRF believes that at this level of researcher, we will bring their participation into the national vision for this intervention. So there are areas like semiconductor, there are areas like climate science, climate and clean energy, hydrogen, and in such area where India must now create an important intervention at the national and international level. I think NRF will going to bring all such things also into its role.
So the Prime Minister would be chairing this NRF. The Prime Minister chairing anything very encouraging in a sense, because it gives direction from the top. But it also comes with certain of its own, drawbacks. Can you elaborate on this?
Look, again, I think this is a criticism that we see.
You know what I do mean. There would be like some political direction to the science research.
Very frank, and there's no way of hiding anything. So, in National Science Foundation in US, the director of National Foundation reports to President of US. Directly. See, in India, you may call it a political intervention, but I would say that we get this kind of the monitoring of such a high-end research program right at the highest level in the government. But if you see the structure, you find that the most of the monitoring will be done by a committee chaired by Principal Secretary to Government of India, with all experts into this. So, but we need the research to be monitored at the highest level to get importance and also to get global importance. See, we need a global importance of our initiative also. So there's nothing, and as I said, we studied many countries, and we found that there also the research is given a very national high priority by the government, and the monitoring is done at a very high level.
So earlier when we were talking in the morning, you did mention that there is a very interesting research ecosystem in the country regarding the age of the researchers and the amount of funding that they get. There is kind of an anomaly there. Could you elaborate?
So, it's very interesting ecosystem of India, and this is unique in the world. I mean, again, our team has done a very elaborate study, and let me mention about that. India has something like 1,300 universities and degree awarding institutions. So 162 IITs and ISER and NITs, and 1,188 universities. There are 650, 700 state universities, that is state government universities and state private universities. Nearly 4 crores of students, undergraduate, postgraduate, and all. At the research level, we have something like 4 lakh of researchers in the country. But when we really see that the ecosystem, there is a clear 2 things we are seeing clearly. One is that, let me put these 2 things I divide into. The first thing is that the research quality and researcher quality you find that IITs and the ISAs and all, they have very high research quality. And you see, this is a very important thing. How the research quality is, what is the parameter to decide research quality? A, that it has good infrastructure, R&D infrastructure, equipments and all. B, it has faculty of high quality coming from having worked in US and other countries, coming back and working. C, it has a high quality student also. So it is all interlinked. A good student will like to work in a good institution with a good supervisor. So let me come to your question that, this kind of ecosystem is still missing in the universities. Universities have all the three components poorer than the IIT. And that is when I say that when you see that entire ecosystem, it has the research funding is very little in the university because the entire funding system in the government is quality driven, is quantity driven. That suppose 100 people submit proposals, the best 20 will get grant, remaining 80% are rejected. Most of these
That needs to change, you say.
80% of those researchers who do not get belong to universities because they don't have quality. Now, question that you ask is the related thing is that again 70% of some proposals that are submitted are for the researcher below 45 years age, which means that there is a potential of research in the country. We have a large number of researchers in the age less than 45.
So we'll have to wind up, but just before finishing, one last question, since this is a meeting of science communicators, is there any space in the NRF to encourage research or anything in science communication? One government platform that we did have has shut down, so just some parting words on that would be very interesting.
There are many, I think it's been a kind of effort of the government, and I'll tell you, as part of the science and technology innovation policy that we formulated, to mention that, I think there is a need for mainstreaming, science communication. Every institution must have a science communication wing. I have been into this business for the last 2 decades. I always find that there is a hesitation in the scientists to communicate to media, partly because they think that they are going to be misquoted, but partly because the language in which the media wants is somewhat different from what they use. And therefore, this kind of gap between what is required to be communicated and what is being communicated by hand there. I think there is a strong need for every institution in the government to bring these kind of gap fill, and then only we can communicate science. There is a need for media to get educated. I'll just give you an example. I am a cyclone forecaster from the beginning. So there's a media and a misunderstanding in the south also. When I worked in Chennai, I found that when you say the cyclone is going to cross Visakhapatnam, people think there's like a missile, it is going to hit Visakhapatnam. Whereas cyclone has 1,000 kilometers, area of influence. So sometimes understanding, so this is the entire blame is to scientists. Media need to be educated, and we know the younger people are joining media, so they need to be educated. I think, so I would say science communication is the bottom line for science to be popularized among the masses.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. So here's wishing NRF good innings, and here's wishing science communication a great
Thank you so much.
Thank you.